Egypt has criticized the United States after it reportedly withheld $195 million in military aid and also cut $96 million in other aids over human rights concerns. The Foreign Ministry said that although the move has not yet been announced, it reflected poor judgment from U.S. officials. Officials from the U.S. were unhappy that a new law regulating NGOs had been ratified. 8 civil society organizations warned in June that the legislation ushered in unprecedented levels of repression and would criminalize the work of many NGOs in Egypt, making it impossible for them to function independently. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has launched a sweeping crackdown on dissent since leading the military's overthrow of his predecessor Mohamed Morsi in 2013 following mass opposition protests. Citizens of Burkina Faso are marching in solidarity with the victims of last week's attack on a restaurant in Ouagadougou, as the cross-border dimension of terrorism in the Sahel region continues to pose a serious threat to stability, prosperity and growth in the region. Many fear that Burkina Faso could become a new base for jihadists.
Burkina Faso is still reeling from a suspected Islamist attack which killed at least 18 people and wounded several others during a raid on a restaurant in Burkina Faso's capital, Ouagadougou. Around 1,000 people marched through the city to protest insecurity and show solidarity with the victims. Those who turned out say life will go on and hope their show of unity will be felt in Burkina Faso and beyond.
Évident que notre élan de vie est intact.
Our way of life will continue. Life goes on. We will continue living our lives. We need to continue working on making sure that there is national cohesion, and let that be the foundation that will protect us.
Despite increased security and intense military operations, there is growing concern that Islamist militants can strike anywhere and at any time. Many express fears that repeated attacks have created panic across the country. This is the second jihadist attack in a year. A similar attack was at the Cappuccino restaurant and the Splendid Hotel in the city. Recently, the Cappuccino restaurant reopened for business, a show of resilience in the face of growing extremism in the region. Experts warn of a more localized, homegrown Islamist movement that poses a greater threat to the stability of Burkina Faso, a country that is still struggling to stabilize itself after a people power revolution swept out long-term autocrat Blaise Compaoré.
When we analyze the situation, we can say that this is something that is on the rise. It looks like a situation that will worsen over time. And that's very worrying, because we know that the country still needs to do a lot on the economic and social level, and that's a major concern.
Landlocked Burkina Faso is an ally of the West against terrorism in the arid West African Sahel region. Analysts say a lack of resources and decisive measures to boost security have hampered efforts to tackle the Islamist threat. In June, Burkina Faso, Chad, Mali, Mauritania and Niger launched a joint task force known as the Group of Five, G5, to tackle Islamist militants in the Sahel, but it will not be operational until later this year and faces a budget shortfall.
Let's get back to Angola and the ongoing elections in that country to choose a new leader. We can take again the Zenaida Machado, researcher at the Human Rights Watch with the focus on Lusophone Africa, including Angola. She joins us again on the program. Let's attempt to answer these questions now. What does Human Rights Watch make of President Dos Santos' 38 years in power?
Well, one has to start recognizing the fact that he has been able over almost 40 decades to keep the country, to lead the country during a very difficult period of civil war. And after that, managing to successfully organize a peace deal and then maintain that peace for over now more than a decade, almost 15 years. But to be able to do that, he had to implement series of measures that the authorities of Angola will justify those measures as a way of maintaining security and order in the country. And those measures would include, for example, limiting the space of critics by cracking down on protests, arresting activists, controlling the media, and approving repressive laws. So I think this is how President Dos Santos will be remembered. And for us, Human Rights Watch, deal with human rights issues. Those are unfortunately, the points that marked his presidency over 4 decades.
What's the mood like in Angola as people head to the polls today?
I think one has to congratulate the Angolan voters today for the orderly and smooth manner in which they went to the polls to cast their votes. Despite several shortcomings at the beginning when the polling stations opened, for example, delays in distributing materials. We know, for example, that party observers got their accreditations quite late. Some of those issues were resolved by midday, but despite
We've lost that audio again, but let's just take a break on Network Africa, and coming up on the program. Somalia's Nasra Ibrahim shows that what a man can do, so can a woman.